Well, hey, book lovers, welcome back to our live book cover design. Today, we are doing a New Year's Eve inspired book cover. I am so excited for this one. We're going to be using Photoshop CC. I'm going to explain all the buttons, everything I'm doing. We're using an Intuos, Wacom Intuos Pro editing tablet. This is the best thing for saving your wrists, your fingers, your shoulders, your back, your whole body. Trust me, whether you are writing a book or editing on Photoshop, doing video design, or just functioning on a computer, best investment you can make in your life. And then we're going to be using blue light blocking glasses so I don't burn my eyes out as well while we are on air today. And I'm super excited. We're going to dive right into today's cover. We had a little bit of tech trouble, so I've done a little bit of the work and we're going to just jump in. I'm going to explain to you what I did as we are refining what I just did in our new broadcast, and I'm hoping that people can see me. Danielle, you're here. Thank goodness. I am super glad that you guys are here hanging out, doing all the fun things. Let's go ahead and let's dive in. So I did start out with this model, and I just used the quick selection tool to kind of go around her. You can see how it didn't pick up all of the sequins. It didn't pick up her heels. It didn't pick up the black of the shoes. Didn't pick up part of the bracelet. So on our first attempt of this live stream, I actually went and I did all of that. I took care of that. So we were actually good. I'm actually in here just refining what I was doing. So let me just click back on that layer mask. We are on a layer mask where I'm just using a hard round black brush on 100% opacity, and I am just removing anything that I need to get rid of. Now, by using layer masks, we are using a non-destructive layer, which means if I mess something up, I can go back and fix it without having ruined the image. So I'm just going around her heels because she actually has light part around her heels, actually the bottom of the heel. But with that, we want to remove it because it's really going to show up on at least this dark background. We are going to change the background in just a second. So I'm just refining it a little bit. Technically, we could leave it there because it is the underside of her shoe. But in this particular case, I am removing it. So I'm just refining this. And I want you to start thinking, what color should we make her dress? Because I don't know if I'm loving the rainbowness of it. We are going to add the floor in just a second, so that might impact your idea on what we should be coloring her dress. But go ahead and give me comments in the comment box on what you think we should be doing. That did just take away part of her finger that I didn't mean for it to take away, so I'm just zooming in a little bit more, and I'm just going to refine that edge right there. And I'm not overly worried about this because I will be defining this a little bit differently with the confetti we're putting over it. So don't worry. We're gonna fix this up. So I'm just kind of adding her nail back in there and just removing anything around the nail. This is a very interesting looking nail shape she's got going on here. And I'm just getting rid of some of the reflection on the sequins because that's not going to work with our background. Okay, so there we go. Let me back this up for you. We're going to have, sorry guys, we're going to have a big title down here. So we're going to put a floor in just a second. We're going to kind of scatter some party things. So like a hat, the little party kazoo type things on the floor. And then we're going to have a big title down here. We may or may not be adding a disco ball. Let me know, guys. What do you think? Should we go like all out on this or no? But my next step is definitely going to be to add in my floor. So this right now is a little bit weird, a little bit wonky. It's very purple, but you can kind of see like the confetti-y look on the ground. You can kind of see some of that smoke fog vibe. So I'm actually going to take this and I'm going to make it black and white. I've added a black and white layer, and then I'm going to change my brightness and contrast. So all of a sudden, we've just blended this in a little bit, and that actually may be a little darker than I want. So I'm going to maybe raise that up just a touch. We can even add in some color if we want. We could back up our, oh, that's kind of nice. I backed up the black and white layer that we have on there, and that kind of lets some of the purple shine through, but she does kind of sort of start to fade into this a little bit. So we may have to work on that a touch. We may need to brighten up her outfit because that's what's going to make her pop. But let me know, what do you guys think? What color should we make her outfit? My next step for this is definitely going to be to add in some of those like party, no, I changed my mind because I'm actually going to be doing a confetti overlay on this, and I actually want to place the stuff around the confetti. So We'll get to that in just a second. Let's actually go ahead and let's take a look at her outfit. I'm going to zoom back in so we can see that nice and clearly. And we are going to lighten this up. So to do that, all I'm going to do is grab my lasso tool. And you can kind of see, I actually want to refine this a little bit because she's got a stray, I don't know what that is, if that's like the thread that holds her sequins together or whatever, but it needs to go. It's at the bottom left-hand corner, and I just removed it. So that's better. I'm going to grab my lasso tool now, and I am just going to grab part of her outfit. It doesn't have to be the whole thing. I'm just grabbing different sections, and I'm going to add in a brightness and contrast panel. I'm going to use a clipping mask to attach that to that specific layer. And we're going to bump up our brightness. So see how that already takes it to that next level where it is brighter and easier to see. I'm just going to paint that in on the entire dress. So I'm on a soft round brush, 100% opacity. I'm staying away from her skin because we don't want to blow out her skin tones. And we just want to add in that pop of lightness. And because we did the clipping mask, it's not going off of the outfit. So you can see how as I'm moving my mouse, that is just going all over. I'm staying away from her skin, but it doesn't matter if it's on the outside because it's not going to affect the outside layer. If they did not have the clipping mask here, that would affect that outside layer. So you can kind of see how I just went over her skin there. I'm going to have to refine a little bit of this because we need to make sure that that skin tone is consistent. And I'm just going to kind of go over anywhere that I see. And I see already I need to move her up just a little bit because she doesn't go all the way to the top of the page. There we go. Better. Yeah, so I'm seeing people are saying silver. Now, the thing with silver is the confetti overlay and a lot of the other things are silver. So that would be a heavily silver-weighted cover. So think about that. Let's add in, before we change the color of her dress, let's go ahead and let's add in some of that confetti overlay. And then we can kind of figure out where we want to go from there. So the next step is going to be to grab those confetti overlays. And the cool thing about this is that they're just pictures of falling confetti. So there's one and there's the other. And you can see how some of it's blurred and some of it's moved. It's picked up some of those color tones from the things around it. And because it's a black background, all I have to do to use this is change my blend mode from normal to screen. And all of a sudden, look how it just gets rid of the background and it's there. I love it. I do think I do need to switch this around a little bit because it's kind of heavy over her. So I'm actually going to go to edit, down to transform, down to flip horizontal. And that was not what I meant to do because I definitely meant vertical. So let me try that one more time and I'm going to hit the vertical button. There we go. Now see, this is better. I am noticing it doesn't go all the way to the edges of my cover, so I'm just going to click Command T, so that's to transform it, and I'm just going to make it a little bit bigger, and you can kind of see how it's almost floating down. So then I need to decide if I am going to add in another layer of confetti, and the rainbow looks better now that it's brighter. I do agree. I feel like I kind of want to have it a similar color, in like a uniform color rather than a bunch of different colors, but we can actually make it as bright or as dark as we need to with that. So let's see, I'm just going to, oh yeah, I kind of like that. I do kind of like how that looks, and it kind of blurs it in nicely. Okay, so my next step, start thinking of a title, guys, because we're actually in this next step, we're going to add in some party elements. So there's going to be like a hat next to her. We're going to have some little noise makers and things like that. So this is as if the ball has just dropped on New Year's Eve and like a murder happened or like something's going on. So this is probably more along the lines of a contemporary New Year's Eve type story, but it could also sway toward some type of dystopian type thing with like some big party happening as well. And so I've got a couple of different things here that I could potentially be using. And I do want to check out this hat here, which we see very clearly that this is the wrong color depth. So I'm just going to go into my brightness and contrast panel. And I'm going to use a clipping mask. I'm going to bump up my contrast. I'm going to drag down my brightness. And I may actually need to refine my contrast as well. Starting to blend in a little bit there. I may need to resize this a little bit. Feels like it's a little big for something like that. There we go. And you can see this is underneath the layers with the confetti. So the confetti is falling down from the sky. It's like we're looking down on our model here. And so we want those things to be in between the confetti level and the floor level. Now we are going to have to do some shading. We're going to have to blend this in a little bit, but you can kind of see where I'm going with this. So my next step is to add in some of these noisemakers. And again, we've got like weirdly colored things here because we're bringing these in from different places. And so there we go, something like that. We're going to have to deal with our color depth again. So we're bringing in that brightness and contrast panel using our clipping mask, and we're dragging down the brightness and up the contrast to kind of make that fit a little bit better. Are you liking this so far? Start thinking of those titles. We're going to need titles in just a minute because things are going to be built around our titles. I am adding in another noise maker, and these are basically just flattened images. I'm just trying to decide where I want these things because it is one of those like overhead shots. And this actually may not stand out very well because we've got the confetti going on here. So I might actually forego that one. I did pull in, interestingly, I pulled in a little bit of a balloon. So we kind of have this overhead balloon look. You can see the ribbons down below it. And I may make that a little bit smaller and just kind of let that sit next to her. We obviously have to deal with our color depth one more time because this is coming from a different place. And these are way, way, way darker than anywhere else. Oh, I kind of like that. I do kind of like that. I do want to mess with our why am I blanking on this? Hello, photographer KM. Our field of depth. We do need to mess with this a little bit. So I am going to turn this into a smart object real fast, and I'm going to duplicate that. And then I'm going to go up to my filter, down to blur, to Gaussian blur, because with the field of depth, anything that's in focus is going to be in focus on that same plane. So if our model's in focus, anything on the floor will be in focus. The hat, the noisemaker, the ribbons at the bottom of the balloon. But the top of the balloon is up above her, and that means it's going to be out of focus. So I actually have to do some magical work in here. So we're just going to make that blurred, but now you can see the ribbon is blurred as well. So I'm going to put a layer mask over it, and then on a soft round brush, 100% opacity black, I am just painting away from the fuzziness on the ribbons because those are in focus while the balloon above her is not. So you can already see how this is kind of playing out. I think the next thing that I want to do, we're either going to, and this is something y'all get to vote on, we're either going to add in a disco ball kind of in the corner here as if we're looking down around a disco ball, or we are not. So start voting. So here is my disco ball. I'm just going to see how this looks. I'm going to bring this up nice and big. Oh, that's kind of cool. So let me make it a little smaller. And we kind of have this disco ball as if we're looking down on it. If I am going to do this, I'm going to have to change my brightness and contrast. So I'm just going to go through with it to see how it looks, and then we can vote on if we like it or not. We're going to bring down our brightness on this one. And because it is up high, remember with that depth of field, the plane that we are working on, it is not going to be in focus. In fact, it's going to be pretty out of focus because this is going to be up on the ceiling and we're shooting down. So again, we're going to go into filter, blur, Gaussian blur, and we are just going to pull that baby up so that it looks like we are looking down through it. Now, this is cool. If we do keep this here, this is something that we can have on top of our title, and this is something that we can play with flares. And I almost kind of like this. I think I might leave it for right now. The disco ball is fun. Titles out of time, just in time when the ball drops, time's up. Okay, all right, I see you. If you got more suggestions, now's the time to get those in. And we're actually going to work on our coloring in just a second. So I'm giving you just another minute to get those title suggestions in. We're going to build our shadow under our model. So we're going to go ahead. You love it with the disco ball better. I know, it does look cool with the disco ball, doesn't it? We can even, in fact, we can add this in because right now all of our confetti is underneath our disco ball, but it doesn't all have to be. Let me go ahead and let me see which one is which for my layers here. I'm going to duplicate this real fast. I'm going to drag this up on top of that layer. Aha. And then I'm going to put my layer mask on it and get rid of it because I don't want to brighten the other things around it. I just want to add it on top of my disco ball. So look at how that kind of plays into it right there. And I'm just refining my edge here because part of that got really bright. All right. We'll do it your way. That's fine. We're going to run with it. And I can even reduce the opacity on that just a little bit because it is a touch bright in one section. Maybe I'll just grab the opacity of my brush and then I'll do it that way. There we go. I like that better. Okay, so let me go ahead. Let me add in the shadow under my model. So I'm going to go down to the layer underneath my model. I'm going to zoom in and then I'm just going to grab a dark brush on 100% opacity so that we can clearly see where it is. And I am just drawing this really dark shadow under her. And it's actually not super easy to see, but I'm drawing it right in here. You can see it better around her knee. And you can kind of see where this is playing into it. We're going to reduce the opacity on this in a minute. But I am going to draw it around the hat here. I'm going to draw it around the noisemaker up here. Just a little bit. And then I just want to make sure I didn't put, yes, I've got the balloon over here. So we're just adding in some shadow over here. And again, the opacity is going to be reduced on that in just a second. So you can kind of see I'm going to toggle it on and off where I drew it. But we don't want it on full opacity. So I'm just actually going to back it down. And because it is a lighter cover, or it's a darker cover, I don't actually need to reduce it very much. So I'm bringing this down. I'm just kind of watching my key points and I'm bringing it down to around 60, 70%. 74% is where we're at right now. And I do kind of like that. I think I want to add a little bit of shading to the hat. So I'm actually going to come up on top of that layer. I'm going to use my clipping mask and then I'm just going to 100% opacity. I'm just going to draw in some shading here. And then I'm going to reduce my opacity just to kind of kick that in there a little bit. I do want to sculpt that just a little bit more because I actually don't like what I did, so I'm going to redo it. Hang on. There we go on that lighter opacity. Nope. Okay. Dislike. All right. We're good. So now we need to start thinking about whether or not we want to change her dress color. Start thinking about what color you might like. Should we go with like a gold color? Should we match kind of that hat look that we've got going on there? She's got some gold in there already. I almost think that I might in fact like that. So let's see what that looks like. Let's see how that goes. I'm going to add a new blank layer to it, use my clipping mask, and then I am just going to come in and I'm going to paint right on over that. And you can see how I'm just kind of frivolously painting on here because it doesn't matter for another minute. I am going to come in and I'm going to grab my coloring. And oh, yeah, I just changed my blend mode to color and we just gold that whole dress. We just put the whole thing in gold and I like it. So I'm just going to keep going here. And there we go. We've just given her this gold colored dress. I think I got on her skin just a little bit with that. So I'm just going to come in and I'm going to erase that and refine that. There we go. There we go. If we don't like it quite that intense, I can actually back it off just a little bit. So some of the rainbow color is coming through. So I've just backed off the opacity just a touch. And you can kind of see how we've done that there. That's kind of cool. What do you guys think? I'm liking it so far. I'm considering changing the color of the balloon. So I'm just going to come up to my balloon level, which is hiding here somewhere. I think it's because I turned it into the thing. I know exactly what I did. And I'm just going to go ahead and paint on here. We may actually use that gold color. So let me just change my blend mode to see what it changes to. Oops, I'm getting the color wheel of death. It's just going to spin for a second. And then we are going to come in and we are going to add a pop of color to this. There we go. I can even add in other colors as well if I wanted to do like a blue. tone to that. Oh, that's kind of cool. Let me reduce that opacity a little bit. Yeah, that's kind of cool. It gives a nice little pop, and it goes with the noisemaker over on the side, so it brings in a little bit of color to that. All right, I'm liking it. I'm liking it. Let's go ahead and let's grab a title. Let's go with Out of Time. I think that one sounds pretty cool. So we know we do each one on a different layer, and I'm probably going to change the font on this one. So real quick, let me find a font that we like for it. We're going to go with something that's a little more contemporary. So I am just scrolling through. This is not it. I just kind of want to see how this one looks. We're going to keep scrolling. We're looking more along the lines of bigger block letters for more of a contemporary type story. So you have to keep in mind there are different fonts for different types of stories, and if you don't adhere to them, people are not going to know what you're doing. Don't judge anything you see. I'm literally just scrolling through it and it's picking up things. It's not like I'm choosing some of these. But we are just looking for something big and kind of blocky for this one. It's not too terribly in your face. That's weird. I didn't actually pick up the thing I was looking at. So again, I'm just scrolling through. This is the most tedious part of creating a book cover. It takes forever. And I think we're definitely going to need to change the color of this. So let me go ahead and let me grab a color. Let's see what this one looks like. We need something brighter. Different fonts for different kinds of stories. Oh yeah. So you can easily tell what type of story it is by the fonts that they are using. So things that are like more sci-fi are going to be different than things that are fantasy. Fantasy is going to be a little more script-based. Contemporary is more of those like block letters. If you study covers at all, like this right here, this font is used a ton for sci-fi. You'll see that in a lot of sci-fi covers, but it does not represent like a contemporary book. So I am just unhappy with my fonts. Usually if I'm doing a custom cover, we can talk about creating like a custom font, but we don't do that here for these. These are pre-mades. And so I'm just scrolling because I'm not loving anything that I'm seeing right now. And it's not even showing you all of these. Like, what is going on here, y'all? It is being weird. It's being weird. I don't know what's happening. Let me go back up to what the one that we had was okay-ish. Now I just need to find it. You know what? We're going to do this the easier way. We're just going to duplicate that layer, and then we will say out. Really, that's the game we're going to play? Sorry, guys, it didn't duplicate my layer. Not the way it was supposed to. So we're doing the title on different layers so we can move it around as needed. So we will say out. Oh my goodness. I'm so sorry, you guys. It is not doing what I'm asking it to do. It created a folder instead of actually putting this in the way that I asked it to. Okay, there we go. So I think we're going to have to... Oh no, that's not bad. I thought I was going to have to resize it a little bit, but I can actually run with it the way that it is. And I'm just going to make like little words like and of. Those can be smaller comparatively to the other words. And we'll just go with out of time here. That works pretty well, I think. Now we can actually put confetti over this as well if we want. So I could potentially come down here and grab a confetti layer and drag this up to the top, except it didn't do it, did it? There we go. Now we're going to drag it up to the top. Thank you very much for working with me here, baby. Ooh, and I kind of like having it over some of this. Not all of it, because we've just made it very bright and very blurred out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put that layer mask over it. I'm going to hit Command-I to invert it. And then on that layer mask with a soft round brush 100% opacity, I am just going to paint it on where I like it, where I want it. And I kind of do want part of that here. There we go. There we go. So that kind of pulls it all together. I'm liking how this is looking. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to grab one of my flares and I'm going to add that baby in there. And then we are going to put it on our title. That looks pretty good. And of course, as always, we discuss this every single time we do this. You have to make sure it hits in the right place because flares don't always hit where you think they're going to hit. And you will see covers where people have not done it properly and it does not work. So you just have to be aware of where the light is going to hit in each particular situation. So at that point, I can be taking some of these flares and I can like flare it off of her dress if I want to. Look at that. We made it shine right there. That's kind of cute. I might put one on the back side as well, just to kind of pop that a little bit. It kind of goes over her wrist just a touch. I'm just adjusting. And it kind of picks up that overhead light, which we like. So then I'm going to come in and I'm probably going to... Oh, where did that go? Ah, there we are. I could potentially put it on the hat if I wanted to, but I think I'm going to come in and I'm probably going to add some flare off of our little disco ball here, but the coloring is not going to be the same. So I'm actually going to go into my outer glow that I've already set up, and I'm going to change that over to almost like a light blue or a silvery color. You can kind of see how it works right there. And then I'm just going to find a place for that to fit properly. We can go bigger, we can go smaller. There we go. It kind of reflects off of that. I actually want to play with the disco ball just a little bit because it is not quite the same depth as the rest of them. So I'm just looking for my disco ball layer, which has got to be up here somewhere. I have everything labeled, but because it added in some weird foldery things, now I have to find everything again. There it is. Okay. So at that point, I'm going to come into my brightness and contrast panel. I'm going to use my clipping mask. I am going to bump up my contrast, and I actually want to bump up my brightness just a little bit. And I can come in if I really want to, because it will be picking up light from different things. I could potentially put in like some flares, or I could use a gradient. I could use some confetti type things to pick up color. I actually have a little bit of an idea. I have to look for my bokeh overlay. So give me 1 second as I pull those. Oh, nope, wrong folder. Okay. So I'm going to pull those up. I'm going to add a little bit of color detailing to this. But guys, what do you think? Do we like the gold dress? Are we liking the vibes that we're seeing off of this? I really love the confetti look to this. And I kind of like how it's all blending in a little bit. It's very slowly pulling up what I'm asking it to pull up. It's just being ridiculous. There we go. Here's the folder. Folder is now up. Now I can go into the appropriate folder within the folder and I can grab Color Wheel of Death. Okay, I see how it is. I see how it is today. And I'm just going to grab some party light type things and I'm going to add that in right there. And I'm just going to change my blend mode to screen. I'm going to bring it right over here. I'm actually going to pull this down a little bit. And I am just going to kind of hit it where I want it to be. And then I'm going to use the clipping mask to make sure it's only applying it to the disco ball. And then I'm going to reduce that opacity, but you can see how it kind of adds that pop of color. And I almost kind of sort of liked how it had some color over her and over her dress too. So just real fast, because it could be fun, because we're going to try things while we're here today. I'm just going to grab that one more time, and I'm going to screen mode that. I'm going to pop it right on there, but then we're going to dramatically reduce the opacity on that. Maybe I don't like it. Maybe I do not. I mean, I could leave it there. That's okay. I'm not overly worried about it. The one thing I do want to try real fast before I move on is I'm actually going to put that same layer on the ground. So instead of being over top of the confetti and over top of her, it's just going to be kind of illuminating the ground a little bit. And then we're going to pull back that opacity. And that just kind of gives it some color. See, the thing is I like the red. So let me do that a little bit brighter. I'm going to put a layer mask over it. I'm going to grab my soft brown brush on a low opacity. So we're going to look at like 24% opacity. And we're just going to start painting off where it doesn't look cute. But we still have those pops of color, which I kind of like. So I'm just defining that edge. Now you can see how we have that sharp edge right here along the spine. I'm just removing that. And we kind of have those pops of color, which I think I like. I'm going to real quick lower my opacity one more time and just tap off a little bit right around her, just to blend it a tiny bit. There we go. Better. Okay, cool. I'm still just tapping away here until I'm happy with this. There we go. I like that. Okay. So now real fast, we do need to jump in and handle our title. I know what words are. So I'm going to grab one of those layers. I'm going to duplicate it. I'm going to go up to edit, down to transform, down to rotate 90 degrees clockwise. And then I'm going to move that over to the spine. And I'm actually just going to put it all in one layer of time. And then we're going to make it smaller. Of course, spines will change depending on how big the book is that the author writes. This is a pre-made cover, so you do have access to this right now. You can actually buy this for only $100 while I'm on air if you're a publisher or an author. And this fits with a book that you want to write or have written. Otherwise, it goes back into the Cover A Day website, so it's just coveraday.com. And you can get it for double or more the price. So today, while we're live, it is half off or more. But only while we're live. So you only have another minute or two until I sign off to grab this if it's something that you want. And of course, we have to change up whatever works for you in terms of that back cover and what works on your spine and all the fun, fabulous things with your story. I'm going to put fancy hook line here. I am going to make this smaller so that it fits. And we may add some pop of color to the back as well, just because now we kind of have some color there that I want to make sure we're taking care of, making sure that we've got the continuity between the front cover and the back cover. So I'm actually going to rotate what we've got here 180 degrees. I'm going to move it right on over to the back. And with the back cover, we can actually leave it brighter if we want. So I'm just changing my blend mode down to screen to remove that black. And that's still very, very bright. We don't like it that bright, so we're just going to pull that back a little bit. But you can kind of see how it pops and adds just that nice little bit of texture there. So real quick, let me go ahead and take that frame right off so you can see what this looks like. I am loving how this has turned out. I am going to come up here and add a brightness and contrast panel and just pull up my contrast and pull up my brightness just a little bit on the entire thing, so that it pops just a little bit more, and then you can kind of see how that is defined there with the border to show you where the frame is on this one. And I'm going to go ahead and I am going to hit the save button on this. If you are loving this, I hope you will join me, because we are live every single Wednesday at 3 p.m. Eastern to creating a new cover, and you get to vote on what type of cover we do. So should we do a paranormal one next week? Should we do dystopia? I just found the coolest pieces for a dystopian one. So if y'all don't want to do dystopia next week, I'm going to be doing it behind the scenes anyway. Should we do like magic? Should we do retelling? Should we do contemporary? Should we do a text heavy one? What should we do? Let me know, guys, what you think we should do in next week's live stream. And I hope you will join me for our New Year's Eve party tomorrow on TikTok at 3 p.m. Eastern. Thanks so much for joining me. Come vote next week on Instagram stories for what topic we will be covering in our next live stream cover design. As always, coveraday.com for more information on this, on pre-made covers or on custom covers. Thank you all for joining. Hope you enjoyed. Let your friends know to come join us next time. Until then, I hope you all have a great day.